welcome. And let's just start off. You joined the program in the middle of a season. Now, golf takes a break between the fall and the spring, but talk a little bit about what the attraction was of coming to the WT athletics program, taking over this golf team, and maybe some of the challenges of getting to know kids that you had no part in recruiting that are now yours.
No, it was very exciting for me to come here to WT. Ever since I made the decision to start coaching in 2017, I always wanted to be a head coach. That was definitely one of the goals. So when this opportunity came along, being able to coach men, but also at a place where, the whole athletic department is successful and, there's lofty goals and those kind of things, those were really attractive to me as a coach. Also the fact that my wife's family is from Amarillo, that also played a part in it, and made, the decision a lot easier as well, because moving from Michigan is a long move and it's a long ways, but having family here definitely helps. And then when it comes to me joining the team in the middle of the season, that was definitely a challenge, I would say. It was a challenge for many reasons. I would say the first one being the fact that there was a lot of things going on outside of golf that I had to take care of, while at the same time, having to set up practices and having to do all of the fun stuff in coaching. So, clearly it would have been easier for me to take care of all the other stuff during the summer and then really focus on golf during the season. But that was not the case. But it's those kind of things that you have to take care of anyway. But yeah, so far it's been great, and I'm really excited for next year.
We have a couple of your players online now. We'll go to them in a little bit, but from your perspective, how difficult is it for the student athletes to go through a coaching change in the middle of the season?
I can't speak as a player because that never happened to me as a player, but I'm sure it's really hard. It's just changing, practice schedules, changing the way things are being done, and the fact, especially for my players, they didn't go through just one change; they went through two changes. So I'm sure that must have been very challenging, just in terms of getting to know your coach, understanding the expectations of each one. I give them a lot of credit for adapting the way they have.
Now, before we move on, we'll play by the same rules we have all along. You can send in a question on the group chat if you would like, and I'll read it to Axel, or you can wave, say you want to play on through in golf terms, and I'll call on you to ask questions of our head coach, Axel Ochoa. Axel, at one point in your career, you founded a company that helped colleges and universities identify and recruit international students. I know international student athletes are a big part of the collegiate golf scene. Talk a little bit about your involvement there, and obviously it's got to be a big help as a head coach.
Yeah, that was actually right before I decided to be a coach. Basically, I started my own recruiting agency to recruit golf players from Argentina, to come play golf in the U.S. And that has definitely helped me a lot when it comes to going through all the recruiting process and understanding, the time frames, the schedules, what's needed, all the visa procedures. So yeah, I feel like I'm a lot better prepared now because of that.
And I'm going to ask you right now to tell us a little bit about the roster that you have here at WT. It's a roster that you inherited. It's got 3 Texans and 5 internationals. Tell us a little bit about those young men.
Yeah, they've been great so far. I have 2 players from Sweden. One's Daniel, the other one's Eric. They're both very naturally gifted players. They kind of remind me a little bit of myself when I was playing and competing a lot, just because, you're not going to see them on the range all the time, but they like to go out and play most of the time, which is kind of how I was as a player. So I can definitely relate to that. They're both freshmen, so they still have 4 more years of eligibility because of the whole COVID-19 thing. So I see very bright futures ahead of them. Then Emily, he's from Finland. And Mitch can attest to this. He's probably one of the most disciplined people that I've ever met. Another guy that's young and has a lot of talent. So I can only see him, getting better. Mitch, who's right there, great kid. It's been great getting to know him. Yeah, I think he has a lot of talent, and I feel like and we've had a lot of conversations about this, but once he starts believing in himself, he's gonna see a lot better results. Even though he's seen a lot of progress already, I think his game has taken a step up for sure. Michael and Thaxton, 2 really young kids here from Texas, freshmen also. They redshirted last year. I keep telling them, how far they take their golf game, it's up to them. If they put in the time and the effort, they're gonna get a lot better. And I feel like they do have that hunger in them. So I expect really good things this coming year from them. Also really, really good kids. Who am I missing? Harry from England. Harry's a lot of fun to be around. He's he has a pretty unorthodox swing, which I enjoy, because he does it his own way, and I really respect that from people. But he also reminds me of myself as a player, because I think he truly understands the game and how it should be played. And I feel like once he gets that, he's been struggling a little bit with confidence issues on the golf course and with his game, but I feel like once he gets over those, things are going to be a lot better.
Now, your team played the fall season, recorded a pair of 6th place finishes. I say your team, the Buffaloes. Your first full tournament with the team, you go down to St. Mary's, and the team finishes 3rd in the team standings. That's their best finish in over 2.5 years. So obviously the guys responded well.
Yeah, they did great. And to be honest with you, and I told the guys the same thing, I wasn't that happy about the result itself. I mean, I was happy about the result, but to me, that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that, number one, we got off to a pretty rough start, and we were able to play really well from then on. But also, I saw, and Casey was there too, and he can attest to this. We had a really good time, and they started to believe again, that they could do that. I think I played a little bit of a role when it comes to that, but most of the credit it's definitely due to them. Starting to believe and starting to realize. I mean, that tournament we played against, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 top 25 teams in D2, and we beat a couple of them, and we were really, really close to beating a couple top 10 teams in the country. And to me, the main thing was just them, believing again that they can do that, and that they should do that. Because the truth too, when it comes to that tournament, is that we didn't even play our best golf, and we were still up there with the best teams in the country.
Okay, we've got a question from Puff Niegos, who asks, what do you see as your greatest need for the team at this point?
I think, and I've had several conversations with the guys about this. I think that what the team needs is a little bit more consistency when players are not playing well. I do think, based on my experience as a player and also as a coach, I think that's one of the keys of being a solid team. It's, having those guys that are playing in the 3, 4, 5 spot to, come in with a decent score even when their games is not there. Because the truth is that, on every tournament we play, 5 players are playing each round, and it's almost impossible for everybody to play well on the same day. So the key to good tournament college golf is, being able to post a good score even when your A game or B game is not there. And I feel like, this team needs to get better at that. I feel like there's been many days where, we had to count pretty high scores, and that definitely hurt us. But it's one of my most important things as a coach. So I'm sure we'll work towards it, and we'll get better at it.
And you mentioned qualifying for tournaments. Keith asks, how do you handle qualifying for the tournaments, and how many players optimally would you like to have on your roster?
How many? It depends. I don't have a set number when it comes to that. I would say it's definitely around 10. I do not want to have, many more than 10, just because I think it becomes really difficult to have that one-on-one with players that I think it's needed, and I think that they appreciate, and I appreciate as well. So I would say that, the optimal number would be around 10, because I think that gives us a depth that we need, but also it allows me as a coach to have that one-on-one time with each one of them.
And then what's your method for deciding which 5 are going to represent WT at a tournament?
Well, at the beginning of the year, so basically, once we start the season in early September, I will have, several rounds of qualifying around the area in the courses we play. My idea would be probably around 4 or 5 rounds, and then whoever, the top 5 during those 5 rounds will play the first tournament for the team. And after that, it's gonna depend on several factors. I mean, clearly, like I told the guys, I'm gonna weigh in tournament rounds a little bit more than just qualifying rounds, but everything will be taken into account, and I will make decisions moving forward based on on how guys are playing, and things I see not only on the golf course but outside the golf course as well. So it's you as a coach need to make decisions kind of on the go when it comes to that.
Jerry Schaefer, you've texted in a question, but that's a good one. Why don't you ask it of Axel? You got to unmute.
Axel, who in the golf world is your role model as a golf coach? And the game's so mental. How do you teach your kids to be mentally tough?
My role model as a coach, I read a really, really good book. It's called, I actually have it right here in my office. It's called Better Than I Found It by Mike McGraw. He was the longtime head coach at Oklahoma State, which is, probably considered the best golf program in the nation. He's definitely and I've been in touch with him, here and there. He's been really good with that. He's definitely somebody that I look up to and just learn from as much as I can. I also lean on my former coaches. I had 2 coaches at OC, and they were pretty different from each other. But I take the things that I like about them individually, and I try to apply those to my philosophies and the way I coach. And I also learn a lot from my former boss, the head coach at Grand Valley, Rebecca Mayu. She was really, really good at a couple of things that I think are really important. Mental tough. Sorry, I forgot the second part of the question. No, when it comes to mental toughness, something that I really like to do with the guys is, especially for qualifying rounds, I like to just throw in unexpected things to them. So basically, and I haven't really had much time to do it this year, but I will plan on doing it next year. Things like, we'll play from different tees, just things that they're not used to. Because I want them to be able to handle unexpected things in the moment, because that to me is such a big part of golf. In golf, you're never hitting the same shot twice. So, they gotta be ready, and they gotta understand that, the unexpected is gonna happen, and you gotta know and be trained in order to deal with that.
Just a reminder, we're visiting with Buff men's golf coach Axel Ochoa. Got another question. This comes from one of your alums, Ethan Peterson. He's asking, have the local courses been good to work with regarding practices, and what does your schedule look like for practice?
Yeah, so far it's been good. We've had some talks with Meredith about, some ideas and plans we would love to implement in the future, but yeah, I mean, we're lucky enough to be able to play at a lot of different places, which, kind of going back to that mental toughness aspect, I think it adds a lot of variety, and I like that. I want the guys to be able to adapt to different courses, different scenarios, and us being able to play at Amarillo Country Club, at Tascosa, La Paloma, here at Palo Duro Creek, that definitely helps, I think, because you're never playing the same stuff over and over again. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Practice schedules. When you schedule practices, I guess he's asking what the format is.
Yeah, it depends, based on what I feel the guys need at that time. I do like to, and also it depends on each player as well. I try to give them freedom. Usually I make up a practice schedule that I want everybody to do, but after that, it's kind of up to them to work on the things that they want to work. Because golf is such an individual sport, and some players are just hardwired so differently. I mean, just to give you an example, we've had a couple of practices where guys finish what I asked them to do, and then I don't know, Emily, who really likes to hit a lot of balls, would go to the range, and then Eric, who just likes to play, he would go out and play 9 holes. And I'm totally okay with that, because I understand that every player has different needs, and every player, came about the game of golf in a different way. And some guys need to just go out and play and have fun, and maybe play 9 holes with a couple balls, and some other guys just need to spend 3 hours in the range figuring something out in their swing, like Emily or Harry would do. If I feel like if I made Eric or Daniel do the same things that Emily or Harry would do, somebody wouldn't like it.
Now I'm going to bring in one of your current players, Mitch Downing. He is a junior from Happy, Texas. We've talked about the internationals. Now we can talk about a young man that's just 15 miles down the road from us. Good morning, Mitch. And tell us a little bit about what Coach Ochoa has brought to the Buffs golf program.
Ooh. First of all, it's nice to see a lot of familiar faces this morning. And yeah, Coach, I know Coach has brought a lot. He's definitely fit in well with all of the guys.
We have a question directed towards you. We mentioned you're from Happy. What's it been like playing with a team that half of the makeup are international student athletes? And how's it been being teammates with them? And how do you think you've benefited from playing with them?
Yeah, I think Ethan can probably, and Michael can probably relate to this. It's nice to, especially being from Happy, there's not a lot of diversity in Happy. So it's nice to get some culture from some of the other guys. It's definitely a lot of fun. Pick up a lot of new words and sayings and accents. And, they're really good golfers, and all of them see the game of golf in different ways, which is really fun. And yeah, I wouldn't ask for it any differently. I really like to meet internationals and kind of gain some new culture.
And you mentioned Michael. It's Michael Barrera, who's on our Zoom today. He's a freshman from Corpus Christi. And Michael, let's get your input. You start the fall campaign with Eric Moore as your coach, and then you come back from Christmas break, and Axel Ochoa has come down here from Grand Valley State, and it's a whole new mindset. Talk a little bit as a player about what you go through at a time when you're gearing up for your spring season.
Well, it was definitely a shock to everyone, but I believe Coach Ochoa brought the structure that we needed for the team, and we're starting to work a lot more like a team rather than a bunch of individuals. We're building a big relationship with each other and learning how to work well with each other.
From your standpoint, does the fact that Coach Ochoa was such a successful collegiate golfer himself, does that have benefit for you when he's telling you or trying to assist you in your game?
Yes, I believe it helps because he was once in our shoes. So I believe he comes from experience.
All right, for Buff Nation, who has questions for Axel Ochoa? Just raise your hand or send it. There we go. Paul Sweetgall.
All right, Axel, good to see you today. Just tell us a little bit about your background. First of all, how were you recruited to play collegiate golf? Why did you decide to go to the school that you attended? And just with so many international student athletes playing these days, how much of an adjustment is it for an international student athlete to come to an area like Texas or Oklahoma?
Yeah, when it comes to my experience, the way I got recruited, I was already in talks with a school in Georgia. But you know, I wasn't offered, but I was in the talks of getting a pretty good scholarship there. And I really liked the idea of going there because I knew two former students there from Argentina that were actually members at my country club back home. So, you know, that whole transition was going to be easier. But then a player that I used to play with quite a bit in junior tournament golf in Argentina gave me a call one day, and he put me in touch with, you know, with my former coach, David Lynn, and I mean, he offered me a full ride. So with my economic situation back home, I had to agree to that. But also, you know, the fact that there was an Argentine there that I knew, the fact that, you know, OC was it was a really successful program. That was, you know, really appealing to me. Now, and then, you know, going from Buenos Aires, which is a really, really big city in Argentina, to Edmond, Oklahoma was definitely a change. You know, at the beginning, it was a little challenging just because, you know, I was back home and, you know, my wife can attest to this, you know, being from a city that it kind of operates like New York City when it comes to public transportation and all of those things. You know, just not needing a car for anything, you know, gives you a freedom that then when you come to school here to a place like Edmond, and you need a car to go anywhere you want, that was one of the most challenging things in my experience. And then, you know, clearly, and I'm sure this happens to any international student, at the beginning, you know, just everything being new, and especially the language barrier, it's a little bit of a challenge. I mean, clearly for some people it's a lot worse than others, but it doesn't take that long, at least. That's, you know, every time I'm trying to recruit international players, I always tell them that, you know, maybe the first semester will be challenging when it comes to that, but once you get over that hump and your English starts getting better, things are going to be a lot easier.
And we'll follow that up, Axel. Jerry Schaefer is asking if you have adapted to playing the West Texas wind.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you ask that, because when I went to Oklahoma, you know, I come from Buenos Aires is really not that windy. But I do remember when I was a junior, I played at a place called Mar del Plata Golf Club, which is, till this day, it's probably my favorite course to play. And it's about 4 hours from where I'm from, and it's by the coast. And it was pretty windy down there. And I really liked just the challenge and how creative you need to be. So then when I came to Oklahoma is also really, really windy as well. Maybe not as windy as Amarillo, but very, very close. And I embraced it. Even though I wasn't used to at the time, I took a good attitude about it, and I started to like playing in the wind, and now it's, you know, I keep telling the guys, you know, we need to use that as one of our strengths. You know, I want West Texas the West Texas golf program to be known for playing good in the wind, because the truth is that we practice in the wind every single day. So, you know, if we have a good attitude about it, we should use that to our advantage. And no, I adapted. I actually really like it. Every time when I compete and I go to a tournament, I hope it's windy, because I've been trained in it, and I actually enjoy it. And I know it puts me at an advantage compared to other people. And I want the team to think the same way.
Michael, same question for you. You're coming from the Gulf Coast where you've got a breeze, but not the wind that we normally have in the Panhandle. How has your game changed?
Yeah, I'm very used to the wind coming from down here. A calm day is 20 miles an hour, but it's nothing like the wind up there. It's very different. I've learned a lot of how to control my ball flights and stuff with the help of coach, and just adapting to how different the wind is from these two places. I've also been adapting to
And it looks like he froze up there, so we'll follow up with him in a minute. Ethan Peterson, we've got a question for you right here. And one of our fans out in Buff Nation is just curious what you have been up to since you left WT.
I started working at Bank of Commerce here in Amarillo, but then just recently moved to Happy State Bank. So I'm a financial analyst / accountant there.
Still playing golf?
Trying to, yeah. When I can, it's definitely a big change. Going from practicing every day to once a week or once every other week, your score tends to go up a little.
All right, who has questions for Axel or any of our young people? Lee Passmore, go ahead.
Yeah, I know when you came in here as a head coach in the end of January, you want to hit the ground running, see what you can do. And, you know, you had a third place finish in your first tournament there. And then March, the COVID-19 hits. How frustrating was that for you as a coach and the guys to just kind of have it interrupted like that and know you're not going to really get to do much your first year as a head coach? And what's this going to do for you, you think, going into next year, having this year interrupted like it's been?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, it was frustrating, just like, I'm sure it was frustrating for every single coach and player. At the beginning, I thought it was I thought they made the decision way too soon, to be honest with you. But then, after seeing what happened and what transpired after that, I think maybe it was a good call. But, I try to see the positives in it. Even though it was frustrating and a little bit disappointing, on the bright side, it has given me a little more time to focus on recruiting, and it has given me a little bit more time to take care of all the things that I need to take care outside of the game of golf when it comes to coaching. And also I think the fact that everybody's getting a year of eligibility back, and the fact that my team is really young, I think that over a couple of years from now, I think that's gonna end up helping us. Because, a lot of these guys that are freshmen or sophomores, they're gonna be able to play one more year if they want to. And I think that one more year of experience, it's gonna help. So I think the team in the coming years will be better because of it.
Okay, who has a question for Axel Ochoa? Casey, go ahead.
Okay. So I got to spend a little bit of time with you this spring, and haven't talked to you in a little while, I feel like. So I want to ask a couple questions, get caught back up on things. Have you finalized the new golf bag design that you were trying to put together, first off?
Yeah, I didn't send you that?
No, I need to see that. I know that I saw a proof, but I didn't know if that was the final one or not.
No, yeah, it is. Yeah, the only thing is that, because of this COVID-19 situation, the design is ready, but they haven't really put it in production yet. So I'm still waiting on that. But yeah, you guys are gonna be able to see it. Once we get it, you'll see it on Instagram. They look really nice.
Okay, and the one thing that I realized is golfers are some of the weirdest people I've ever met. I didn't realize that when I was, just as a casual fan. But the first couple of months of actually being around the team, I realized that. And so, how were you as a player, and your personality and attitude and all of those things? How has that translated into you as a coach? And also, how do you deal with all the different personalities, especially with your international guys? You have an eclectic group of individuals on your team right now, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, I'll start by the beginning. My to be honest with you, I'm pretty different on the golf course as a player than I am as a coach or just in general. As a player, I used to be pretty feisty and pretty, not that I would have anger management issues, but I could, reach some some heated times. And I'm not like that at all as a coach. I try, because I feel like I've learned from that, and it doesn't do anybody any good. So as a coach, I try to be, as calm and as relaxed as I can, because I think, I've seen coaches getting mad at players and yelling and doing things like that, and maybe in a physical sport like football or basketball, where adrenaline needs to be high in order for you to perform better, that may help, but that's not the case in golf. Me yelling at one of my players because they made a poor decision is not gonna, and Meredith can attest to this, it's not gonna do anybody any good. So even though I used to do that a little bit as a player, I definitely try not to do it as a coach. And then, so I try to be very, level-headed especially when I'm on the course during tournament rounds. No, and then how do I deal with the team and each individual? Yeah, I've learned throughout the years. I really did learn this at Grand Valley. You have to be different. You have to coach every player in a different way, I think, because every player has different needs. Every player is hardwired in a different way, and I think it's very important to get to know your players and understand what they need out of you and how you can help them. Clearly you got to stay true to some of the things you believe in and some of your main philosophies. But you do have to, at least this is what I believe, you have to understand your players and know when to say something, when not to say something, when to be hard on someone, when not to, when to motivate someone, when not to, and things like that. And maybe the way I coach Mitch is completely different to the way I coach Emily, but I'm okay with that because I do think in golf that's important.
Jerry Schaefer, you had a question for Axel.
Hey, Axel, have you had time to assess the state of your program and maybe some material needs that you guys may have that your budget doesn't fit, that your budget doesn't kind of supply? Some things that maybe the donors could do to help? Boosters?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I would like to do, and I still need to kind of finalize the numbers and meet with Casey and Michael and see what things we're going to be able to do and what things we're not going to be able to do. Especially when it comes to that, there's a lot of things, that are still kind of up in the air because of the COVID-19 situation. But yeah, I would, and I've already talked to the guys about this. I would love to be able to take the guys on some kind of trip at some point for them to see really, really good architecturally sound golf courses, because number one, I think it's a really good experience for anybody who loves golf, but also it's a really good experience as a player to get to play, a really good course. And also, it's something that I feel like doing such a trip would definitely bring the team together, and I think it would be an experience that they wouldn't forget. I mean, when I was a player, if I think back on my career as a player, the first things that pop in my mind are the trips that we took and some of the really, really nice courses that I was able to play, and the national championships. Like those are probably the three main things that come to my mind first. So I want to be able to, for my players to experience some of those things if I can. And then, we've been talking with Meredith about a couple of things that we still have to keep talking about and come up with some things, but and it's still very fresh, but I don't even know if I should mention it. But there's we have some ideas of maybe being able to create some kind of a place to practice here on campus, and that would, I think that would benefit both programs, and it would be amazing if we can do it. But again, it's still very new. We just got started talking about it, and there's so many things that need to fall into place before we really push for it, that yeah, well, we'll see. But that would be something, looking into the future, that I think would be awesome if we could do it.
Axel, Keith is wondering if you have identified or will have someone help you as an assistant coach. Other than Casey.
No, to be honest with you, I haven't really, at this point, I don't think it's needed. Maybe in the future I will consider it. But just bringing Casey to a couple of tournaments here and there, I think it helps, because Casey's just fun to be around, and I think that's, to some degree, that's what the guys need.
And I have really good golf knowledge too. Let's not forget that.
No, I don't think so. But I think just the fun part of it, it's good enough. And now, and seriously, it really helps. When we went to San Antonio, yeah, I mean, Casey brought these. It was just fun to be around, and I think it keeps everybody in a good mood. When somebody plays bad, it's easier to get on a better mindset when when you're around people that bring that kind of vibe. So, you know, for the moment, I'm not really planning on doing that.
Any more questions for Axel Ochoa? Just raise your hand or text him in. Go ahead, Casey.
Okay, so this question is actually not for Axel, it's for Mrs. Ochoa. And the question is, how is being married to a coach and being a coach's wife? You know, I know that a lot of people have struggles with that, and kind of, you know, how you deal with him on a daily basis when he disappears for, you know, 4 or 5 days during a tournament and you have 2 little ones with you.
See if I can go off mute here. Yeah. Hi, I didn't know I was going to be speaking, but thanks for the question. Yeah, it's been interesting. I wasn't really sure what the life of a coach's wife was going to be like. So I got a good taste of that up in Michigan. But yeah, I mean, we've been able to be pretty flexible. My job has been really great in terms of like when I need to be working and when I don't need to be. No, it's okay. She could stay here. I've got my little one here right now. But yeah, it's been challenging at sometimes, but Axel's always, he's always there at the end of the day to like do bath time and like give me a break. And so he does a good job of taking on things where I just wouldn't be able to manage if he didn't. He's the cook in our relationship, so that helps a lot. And he continues to do so. Other than that, it's been really cool just to hear how a coach goes about coaching. Quite honestly, I asked him for advice the other day. I just had to hire somebody at my job, and I was asking him for advice just about like how you deal with managing people. So it's been cool in a lot of different ways, but yeah, it's challenging at times, but we're working through it.
Jenna, let's stay with you for a minute. Earlier, Axel talked about the culture change coming from Buenos Aires to Edmond. It sounds like you may have had a part to play in helping him get acclimated. Edmond, Allendale, Michigan, and now Canyon, Texas. The populations aren't going up. How's he doing, and how are you working with that?
Yeah, I was his driver in college, so maybe that's why we really got married. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's interesting. We lived in Buenos Aires for a time after we graduated, and so I got to learn what his life was like there. You know, he's had a big change, I think, honestly, in just not having his home golf club. Like, that's where he grew up. So, you know, having that gap in his life has been something that's different culturally here too. Like, I think country clubs there are different as well. But yeah, in terms of him acclimating here, I think he's done really impressive job. Even listening to his English right now, he's throwing out some terms I didn't know that he knew. But adjusting to small town life, small town in comparison to Buenos Aires, he's done a good job. I mean, Axel's a pretty, he always likes to consider all sides of a situation. So he's never quick to judge or never quick to make a judgment, especially about a place that we live. So I think that's helped. I'm kind of opposite. I'll, you know, kind of go 0 to 100 really quick, especially when we're moving somewhere. But yeah, he's adjusted well here too. I was worried about the transition here. My family has been in Amarillo for a long time. So I'm already familiar with the area. Axel visited here when we were dating in college, so he knew the area too. But yeah, I mean, we both have learned to kind of adjust on the fly and sort of try and make the best out of whatever challenges we're presented with. And hopefully that will pan out for the best.
Any more questions for Axel or any of our members of the Buff men's golf program? Well, Axel, that's going to wrap it up today. We appreciate you and Mitch and Michael and Jenna and your family being on with us today. We look forward to golf and all of our activities with WT Athletics firing back up again so that we can go out and watch tournaments and games and cheer on the Buffaloes.
Thank you.
As we mentioned, Axel is our most recent coach, joining us just over 3 months ago. Our next Coaches Zoom will be next Tuesday, the 12th, when we visit with the coach with the longest tenure. We'll be talking Buff Soccer with Butch Laufer. So we look forward to seeing everybody next Tuesday at 11:30 with Coach Laufer. Until then, thanks again to Axel, his wife Jenna, as well as all the Buffs that joined in. Buff Nation, until then, stay safe. Go Buffs.